morning, Soraya.
Hey, Jeff.
How are you?
I'm doing fine. And you?
I'm doing good. Did you know that our podcast is one of the safest COVID podcasts that there is around? So, everybody, you could feel safe listening to Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme.
There you go. That was a good plug.
I
Good
don't
plug.
know. I don't know. I don't know. So, anyway, so today, did you want to tell our listeners who we're talking to?
Yes. Today we are speaking with wonderful musician Gavin Blair,
Yeah.
known to many of our listeners as a member of True West, but also X-Men and uh, also
Cool Killers.
woof,
Yeah.
and worked on some Dream Syndicate stuff and Suspects, which we've talked about before.
Yes.
So
Yeah, so we did the call actually yesterday, right? So
yes, and we were joined by
Ronnie.
our wonderful friend and co-host Ronnie Barnett.
Yeah, and we're wearing different clothes today because it's a different day, right? But this conversation that you guys are going to listen to, it's really fun.
Yes.
It's really fun hearing Gavin tell stories, and fortunately, we had Ronnie on board, so he helped us out a lot on this one. He's a big fan, so he was jumping in with all kinds of questions. So I think you guys are really going to enjoy this one.
And you're going to learn a lot. So let's get started. Hi, this is Soraya.
And this is Jeff.
Our podcast is called Paisley Stage Raspberry and Rhyme,
a podcast where the two of us play music that we like and share anecdotes and background about the tunes.
We hope you'll join our conversation. And without further ado, agruviar.
Let's get groovy.
You can always edit. Sorry, I don't run this thing. I just...
You're like, I am the puppet master.
Yeah. Hey, you miss out. In the studio, you learn to record everything. Yeah.
Start video.
Ah, there you are.
You were right, Jeffrey. It said start video down at the bottom.
Yeah.
But it comes and goes.
Yeah,
So...
I knew if you would touch it, it would be like Ronnie and it would expose itself.
So. Are we still talking about the screen? As far as touching it? Yeah. I've been trying to get Gavin to touch it for years.
It's Rob Halford you were quoting or listening to on the line yesterday.
Oh, it's KK Downing. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
KK? Okay, I thought it was Rob.
Yeah, Rob's book is way better.
Is
by
it?
the way. Yeah, Rob's book is really good, Gavin. You like it.
Okay, cool. I'll have to check that out.
KK's book is disappointing, but I'm barreling through it. So
the way so many of them are, unfortunately.
Right.
Disappointing.
Look, me and Gavin could talk heavy metal all day, but
that's true. What else talk about?
So we'll leave that for the bonus episode, but for this episode, we'd like to talk to Gavin about the work that he's done, right? Am I right, Soraya?
Absolutely.
So
do we call it work?
Salud.
Creative work. So Gavin, True West comes up quite a bit when we talk about the Paisley Underground, which is one of our favorite topics, is the Paisley Underground.
Sure.
And even though we've come to learn that the Paisley Underground scene sounds like it was primarily the 3 o'clock Rain Parade, Dream Syndicate, and the Bangles, there's a few other... Did you say REM?
No. Yeah, we were always lumped into that because, as I think Russ puts it well, when we were their country cousins.
Ah.
Loonies compared to LA. So yeah, journalists lumped us into that movement, because we were friends with all of them. We played on each other's records, stuff like that. And yeah. I had been with Russ and Steve and Kendra before.
Are you talking about this record right here, Suspects?
Yes, about that. And my dear friend Steve Suchel on bass as well. Yeah, they told her head like that, by the way.
Steve's the smart one, right? He got out of the music business.
Yes and no. He was smart because he went to law school, became a lawyer, worked for the state for years, but he's always still played music, but in cover bands and things in the Sacramento.
Did the Suspects play gigs, Gavin? Was it an active band?
It was actually Davis. Steve, one of Steve's brilliant ideas was let's do the laundromat circuit of Davis. We'll play an laundromat in town, and then we can do our laundry, play a set. It was brilliant. And we played in weird, over at the UC Davis pool and in some apartment buildings too. I remember one thing was in an apartment building, and they were having a pool party at this thing, and everything loomed up around us. That was fun.
Nice.
And
How many of
back-
those singles how many were pressed? Do you remember of that single?
No idea, maybe 500.
Okay.
Yeah.
was
Now
very-
was the X-Men before the Suspects? Or did
No,
that come after? Oh, okay.
So I had to take a loan out for this, by the way. This is not cheap, this record right here. So and I wanted to point out, Gavin, that although you're the lead singer of True West, you're the drummer for Suspects and
Indeed.
X-Men.
and X-Men. Yeah, that's what I was doing. I answered an ad in the UC Davis Aggie, I think it was, or was it the Davis Enterprise? And they wanted a drummer who could play everything, and they just named every sort of music you can imagine and influence every sort of band you can imagine. And I was like, well, I'm not doing anything. And I had moved out from the East Coast in '77, and they brought my drum set, or my friends came to visit me in '78, brought my drum set. So I started to play again. And I'd always been a singer. I'm an old choir boy. I was singing in front of people in New York City at age 9. So yeah, but I started playing with those guys, and that was fun. I also had a '66 Chevy pickup at the time. So immediately Steve's like, oh, he's in the band, because, I'd haul all shit around and haul them around too. So those were really kind of innocent, nice times.
That's a good way to get in a band, Gavin. You have a big vehicle, you're a drummer and a singer. The hardest things to find.
Oh, hell yeah.
Nice. So how did you enjoy working with Steve and Kendra?
They were great. I mean, she was like a little sister to me. When I met them, I still had my Timothy B. Schmidt hair, or my super long Neil Young hair. And Kendra was like, oh, I got to take you to see somebody. So we took a picture of Keith Richards and a shag he'd had in 1972 over to her hairdresser. And he just loved the fact that he got to do the deed, It was so yeah, she was always kind of my little sister. And Steve was just a really nice guy, and we had fun.
Very cool. So what ended up happening to Suspects? Did all the laundromats close, or what happened?
Yeah, we were banned from the laundromats. No, actually what happened was Steve and Kendra graduated, and they wanted to move to LA, go home. And of course they wanted to start a band, and that became Dream Syndicate. And Steve Suchel didn't want to go because he was going to law school. Russ didn't want to go. Then and myself, I asked Steve, well, I moved down there, you still need a drummer. He goes, I can't give you any guarantees if you'll be the drummer or not. I'm like, oh, well, screw that. I'll stay here. I'm not moving away who I'm, where I knew no one. And also just LA. Oof. Hey, you guys, you guys like it, but but I'm overwhelmed when the city's too big. And so anyway, yeah, I stayed, and then I went off. Oh, and Donette actually from X-Men, before Suspects broke up, she actually came around to Suspects gigs and said, my guitar player and I need a drummer. And so I started jamming with them in the Suspects rehearsal space. And so that was going on. So that's another reason I didn't leave. I could just jump right over to those guys. And it was fun. It was different music. It was like, kind of power punky stuff, and they just wanted me to hit really hard and play really loud. And a little more finesse in Suspects, different time changes and things. But so it was a little different and fun. So I opted to stay. And then I moved to the big city, downtown Sacramento, because Davis at that time was really podunk. Not like now, it's quite large. So yeah, they went to LA, we stayed up here, and then we all went off and did separate projects. Russ went off and formed The Meantime, and which later became True West. And at that point, he had been coming over to the X-Men house and kind of we were jamming together in our little studio. And then Russ wanted to, he goes, you should sing. And because I used to sing Pirate Love, the old Johnny Thunders song with X-Men. That was my one song, and sing and play drums at doing that. And I can recall at the Mabuhay Gardens in San Francisco, Russ in the audience yelling at the top of his lungs, he should sing more. And of course, Donette wanted to flip him off. He was furious. Anyway,
Nice.
and things just kind of fell into place. And then X-Men, we all lived together in X-Men house, and in Davis. I moved to Sac a year or so later, maybe 2. So yeah, that's what happens to Suspects. I mean, if they hadn't graduated, we would have continued to go on. But
Ronnie, do you have the X-Men record?
I don't.
I don't either. No, I don't have that either. So
I actually,
I don't know.
I might be getting one, but I'll leave the details off of this.
Those are
no, they're really rare. It's on my list. It's like a solid $50 record, if not more. And the sellers are always in Europe. So that's what I'm talking about. Discogs listings. Yeah. So
yeah, it's on my list too. So I've been trying to hunt that one down, but
I got a good line on one. I'll just put it that way.
All right.
Yeah.
Fork out the bread. Let me talk to Donette if she has any extras stashed.
Yeah.
All of us.
Do you have it, Gavin? Musicians often don't have their own records. Yeah, you don't?
No, I don't believe I have that. I do have a Suspect, and Russ's sister sent me a Suspects button.
Ooh.
Wow.
Guys.
There was Suspects merch, Jeff and Soraya.
Wow.
You got to get on that. So that was my question about True West. So you joined True West as a singer, not as a drummer.
Yeah. They didn't need a drummer. And Russ wanted me to sing because he can't sing really. And he does a good Russ Tolman thing. It's that Lou Reed. Actually, he's tons better than he used to be. I mean, his stuff he does now sounds pretty darn good.
Yeah.
But back then he and the singer for The Meantime / which became True West, that guy went off to San Francisco, and then Russ was like, well, I want to work with you, have you be the singer. So I'm like, okay, why not? And of course then I had to face the wrath of Donette for abandoning ship. But and for years afterwards, but who would listen, that she had fired me, and which wasn't the case actually. But that was rough. It was rough leaving that band. You just didn't cross Donette. She was the queen, still is, and we now are friends again, thankfully.
Yeah, we recently talked to Donette, and she kind of alludes to the fact that she was not maybe the nicest person at times back then. But she's a sweetheart now, that's for sure. So
well, she always really has been a sweetheart, but back in those days, we're all young and hot-headed in some respects, but you just didn't cross her. If you pissed her off, man, it was like, whoa. And I pissed her off because I just told her, look, I used to be a singer when I was a kid, and I want to go off with Russ and sing and then co-write stuff. And and that really, oh God, I'm furious.
It's still with you, I can tell. It's still the
I was, I can recall the conversation, and she just, it was a got really, really pissed off. I'm like, look, it was almost like we were breaking up, and we'd never been a couple. But she's an amazing lady and one of the most intelligent people I know. So
Yeah.
anyway, very sweet.
Soraya, are you taking notes about this? Not to cross Donette there.
I've got that.
Yeah,
Now,
that woman, she will go.
So True West, I wanted to talk about this single, Lucifer Sam single. Yeah.
Have that. Yeah.
So this is, I believe, your first output as a band. Was this
Yes.
single? Yeah. And
Yes.
then we know that a short time later, the 3 o'clock also released a version of Lucifer Sam.
Yeah, that's weird.
How did you feel about that, with the 3 o'clock releasing a cover of the same song you did?
Well, Michael was singing it with an English accent, and I was singing it with a, West Coast accent. It was great. We found out later that, we were both doing the same song, but remember, we lived in Northern California, and they were in LA. So, and there was no internet and this and that and the other. So we kind of both found out, like, oh, we're doing the same cover. So, but yeah, they did a brilliant version. I mean, those guys are incredible musicians, and Michael's a great singer, but he was kind of singing it with an English accent, which I didn't do. I found out. We're supposed to be friends today, right?
Right.
just shit like that.
Did the single happen pretty quickly after you got in the band?
That's, I don't know. You might have to ask Russ about that, but I think we always wanted to, we were writing songs, and then that single was a great way to kind of get noticed in the press. You're like, hey, you're doing a cover of Pink Floyd, and we were huge fans, especially that Piper at the Gates of Dawn album. My goodness. But yeah. And yeah, I think we probably went, and did that pretty quickly after I came in.
All right.
Was there
Then-
a decision made to release a cover as your first song? Was there any discussions about, should we put our own song out, an original, or?
No, well, yes, there was a decision purposely to do a cover. And Pink Floyd was kind of really big right then too. That early stuff with Syd Barrett was very popular. Yeah, we made the conscious effort to, like, let's release a single because people will listen to that, and then we can release our own stuff. Personally, I think if we were to do it again, I would make sure the B side of that single had one of our songs on there instead of just doing the backwards thing. But that was just kind of a fun joke. Yeah, that right there. Yeah.
So everything's backwards.
Yeah, the whole thing's, yeah, it was kind of a fun joke. But to do it again, I would not network to release one of our early songs. But
Right.
yeah,
I like how it's backwards.
yeah, red vinyl, too. Cool. That's the one I have as well.
Nice.
All right, Ronnie.
Well, then-
looked like you were ready to.
I was going to say,
transition.
yeah. So then comes this.
Yes,
Wait,
That's you. That's you, Gavin, right, on the cover?
correct.
mine looks different than yours, Ronnie.
We'll get to that. We'll
Okay,
get to
okay.
that version. Yeah. But
What,
so
Jeffrey?
this is in stereo, I'd like to point out.
Yeah,
Um,
we were the first to do stereo, I hear. No,
so how did you make it on the cover? Was that a
No.
band?
all one picture, and it was
Right.
wrapped. So if you look on the back, that's just
Yeah.
like that was the whole picture. My old girlfriend took that picture, and that was in a cemetery, of like a famous historical cemetery in Sacramento. So
Oh, I know that one. I know that cemetery.
I know you know it. It's fairly close to Julie's, I think.
Yeah. It's right by a Target.
Yes.
This is very interesting for everybody to hear, but yeah.
I believe it's the one down there on
man.
Broadway.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
And-
interesting.
close to that Target and close to Bike Dog Brewing too.
Oh
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
And all governors and senators and famous madams, all this kind of stuff from back in the old days of Sacramento are buried in that cemetery, and they do ghost walks in every year.
Nice.
Which really, those are, you ever get a chance to do something like that, they are amazing, because Auburn, California has one too. They actually have characters from history at their tombstone telling you the story of how they got their heads sliced open with an axe, or how they me because I'm a loser. There was one guy that got hung in historic Auburn on a tree, the hanging tree, because Auburn's the capital, and so that's where you would go when you committed crimes. But that cemetery down there in Sac they do a brilliant tour in that place too.
Oh, interesting. So you guys, go ahead.
Oh, I think it was an inexpensive way to put that single out on our Bring Out Your Dead Records, which was our little independent label at the time.
Right. And you roped Steve Wynn into coming back and co-producing this thing. Yep. Nice. I love how it sounds. It's all just fuzz and everything's in the red, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's true. And I believe it's recorded down at BSU Studios with Jim Keeler, who was in the Oxford Circle, an old San Francisco band back in the day, who used to play, open for everybody and their mother down there at the Fillmore and Winterland and stuff like that. He was a great guy. He is an amazing guy, and had a nice little home studio in an old Victorian in the Army Street Studios, and we recorded all our early stuff there. It was just fantastic.
Wow. Long gone, I would imagine, that studio.
I believe so. Yeah. Jim, the way housing prices in San Francisco are now, they're obscene, Jim eventually just kind of got pushed out by all the gentrification and the prices of everything. So yeah, he sold out. He was originally from Davis too, California. So, and friends with guys in Blue Cheer, and, so there's this great psychedelic connection for us, with so, but that EP you have is fantastic. And then to jump ahead to Jeffrey there, when we signed up to New Rose, they wanted a full album and not just an EP, and so it was expanded to do the one that the Jimmy Cagney picture on the front there, that full album.
And that came out fairly within the year of the original. Am I right on that? It seemed like it was very quickly.
It was pretty quick, yeah, because they really liked the they really liked that EP, but like I said, they wanted a full album, so we were like, okay, cool.
And then PVC picked it up in the States.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Our old friend Marty Stewart, who turned out to be such a prick. Anyway.
And then looking at the credits on this, you have the guy that's been in every band in Northern California, Joseph Becker, joins the band.
Yes.
Yeah. A guy who should be a guest on this podcast very soon, by the way, just to talk about his whole career.
Yeah, you should. The guy's a brilliant drummer, and he has played with a lot of great bands and plays with good one now. So yeah,
absolutely. Yep.
And I did want to note that my version, Ronnie, has a special song on it, Hollywood Holy Day.
Oh,
you see that? Yours doesn't.
Mine does too.
I don't think yours has. Oh yeah.
Yeah, mine does too.
Not the EP though, right? The EP has Hollywood Holiday.
The funny thing is they get the title right on the cover, but they get the song title wrong on the back.
Yeah.
Unless that was on purpose, Gavin. Was that on purpose?
Yes, it was for a religious album that we were working. No.
Exactly. Psychedelic spelling, could be.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask Gavin what the songwriting process was for True West. And so you mentioned that you wanted to be, you told Donette that you wanted to be a singer and a songwriter, right?
Sure.
And get off the drum throne, right? So
right.
What was the songwriting process for True West? Did everybody bring in songs or?
Well, for True West, basically Russ and Richard would bring in music and I would write lyrics. And then Russ and I at a certain point started writing everything together. And but Richard always pretty much wanted me to take care of lyric writing. So yeah, it was kind of the big three basically.
Okay.
Richard, Russ, and I.
I'm glad you brought up Richard. I want to talk about Richard because, like, obviously, how did you find? Obviously, he seemed a little older than you guys. I could be wrong on that.
A little
He
bit.
seemed seasoned. He seemed more seasoned, if you will. Like, how did you find him? Like, where did he come from?
He was our contact through Frank French, the original drummer, who was Mr. Sacramento drummer at one point in time. Played with everybody, and everybody. He was in high demand. Richard and he were in a band called the Mumbles, with also a bass player, Mike Palmer, was in that band as well, and was like the second True West bass player after Rick Gates. Richard came from Sacramento, the Sacramento scene. So, and that's where at least I wanted to move to, because all the clubs were there, the bars and all that kind of stuff. And downtown Sac at that time was a cheap place to live. You could live in these big, grand Victorian houses that had been converted into apartments. It was just a fantastic scene in the 80s in Sacramento downtown. And I wanted to get out of the college town atmosphere of Davis. And so, yeah, Richard came from the Sacramento scene. And like I said, he had played in this band called the Mumbles. It was had done very well at the time. So I think we did some gigs with them maybe, or something. They put out a good single too. And eventually we just decided to steal him.
Okay.
Well, Mumbles kind of went their separate ways. The singer in that band had quit to go to school or something, and Mike and Richard were free, and so we grabbed them. And then Richard basically stuck around for a long time. Mike Palmer wanted to stay. He plays in a band called Mumbo Gumbo and some other band called the Nibblers, and wanted to stay in Sacramento. When we started touring, that's when certain people that were with us left because they didn't want to go on the road, or they had to go back to school or whatever. So yeah.
Okay.
Can you guys help me out with a little bit of geography here? How far is Davis from Sacramento? Is it like 45 minutes?
Nah, it's probably, with traffic being in those days, with traffic was, not so bad. So it'll be about a half hour.
Okay.
It's really close.
Okay.
But
yeah, by LA standards, it's in the city.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
But the difference though in mentality and between a college town that was an ag, that they're the Aggies down there, so that's pretty rural feeling. Back then it was, and so the difference between that and Sacramento was like just worlds apart difference. Sacramento was like a cool scene, and Davis was sort of like, yeah, we kind of done this all here. It's all there were no places to play, for one thing, a couple of dive bars. And so, yeah.
The laundromats. Yeah. In the laundromats. Yeah. So Jeff's about to hold it up. Now are labels sniffing around you guys after the Hollywood Holiday EP?
We were with Marty Stewart started courting us to come over to PVC Jam, and then we ended up doing Drifters with him.
Okay.
But
okay. Hold it up, Jeff. Hold it.
Well, mine's the Zippo version.
Right. Well, they picked it up as well.
Yeah. So yeah.
So and it's been on like New Rose and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I got the PVC.
Yeah.
There you go.
You got the original.
It's a promo, Gavin. You didn't get paid for this one.
What?
Ronnie, I think you owe Gavin probably like 78 cents or something.
Oh, that's true. I'll take 75 though.
It's yours. So yeah, so that lineup change you talked about, it really the God-given lineup of True West is this lineup, right? With Kevin on bass and I'm sorry.
Yes, definitely Kevin on bass.
And is it Steve on drums?
Yes.
Yes. And this is the lineup that like, I mean, I saw you guys at least 3 times. You guys were on the road all the time. Like,
True. It was a great
Yeah.
line.
yeah.
So did you
So-
guys tour much then, Gavin?
Yeah, we were road dogs back then. I mean, we'd come for, 3 weeks and then go back out again for 3 to 4 weeks, just like it kept, we kept touring. So yeah, it was
Yeah.
great.
And where
We
did
had
the tours take you? Was it mostly stateside, or did you make it
Yeah.
over?
We did a European tour, which was great. And then they were trying to expand that to include, other countries. But pretty much just England, Germany, France.
Wow.
And yeah, and it would have been nice to be able to continue and go to, further, Italy, Greece, all that stuff. But yeah, that first tour was great.
Were you guys just
Uh-oh.
one?
Yeah, the look for the girl for the night kind of like, hey, can we stay over there? That didn't happen that much actually. We were pretty good about that. And we stayed at Red Roof Inns. That was our place. And
Nice.
a few other great dive places too that were just like, yeah.
Did you share beds, Gavin? Who did you share a bed with?
Kevin and I slept together because I
Okay.
didn't.
Wait, what? This is a whole new podcast right here.
Yeah, believe you me, we had our clothes on and put a board down in the middle of the bed. No, what the thing about it was always there was always 3 of us to a room, and so Russ and Steve and the road manager would all stay in one room. Well, they were all like, "Oh, well, I'm not sleeping in bed with you. I get the floor, or I get the bed tonight. You have to sleep on the floor." Whereas with Richard, Kevin and I both looked at each other. Screw that, man. What side of the bed do you want? I'm like, I want the right side. I'm not sleeping on the floor. So it was great. We were brothers. I mean, when I lost him, it was like a family member. And so, yeah, we 3 roomed, and we always got to sleep in beds because all the places we stayed had like 2 beds. And of course, King Richard got to sleep all by himself. The other guys, yeah, they one would sleep on the floor. So
Yeah. That's one of the things. Yeah, people often share beds, on those one, right? When you're can only afford one hotel room. That's just what happened. So that's why I had to ask.
We always could afford 2 rooms.
Nice.
So yeah, the tours we did were great because they pretty much just paid for themselves. You might get home and make $100, for so needless to say, it was a little rougher at home. We all had day jobs and, did what we could to keep doing the music, and with the hopes of, getting to the point where you could actually make a living at it. And, so, yeah.
Nice. Let's talk about the REM tour. I saw you guys open for REM in Houston. How long were you on that tour?
7 weeks.
Whoa.
Wow.
It was brilliant. I mean, those guys are tremendous. I mean, really, really nice guys. Yeah, they hired a separate PA guy for us, a separate little PA for us. And the reasoning behind that was when they went on tour with U2 never gave them sound checks. And they just be like, just go out there and wing it, mate. You'll be fine. And I remember talking to Buck and Michael Stipe going, it was hell. It was like 5 songs in and you're like, still can't hear shit. And, but you 2 didn't want to be upstaged, so the REM was fantastic. I mean, they got in touch with us and were fans, and we were fans of theirs. And so we went out and did Western US, bit of Canada, and then some of the Southwest too.
Wow. 7 weeks. That's a long time. That's great.
Did we run into you in Texas?
Yeah,
Is that where you?
not on that show, but yeah, at the club Fitzgerald's in
Oh,
Houston, if you remember that place.
I remember you at Fitzgerald's.
Yeah. My favorite club of all time. R.I.P. They tore it down last year or 2 years ago, but
I said a little prayer for it myself because we had great times in that place. That was wonderful.
yeah, I have a piece of the floor framed in the other room.
Nice.
That a friend got for me. Yeah. So I got a piece of the club.
Cool.
But yeah, no, like I said, I think I saw you guys twice in 1 year.
Wow.
1 year. I mean, you guys seem to always be on the road, which is amazing. Okay, so Drifters.
We asked to be on
go
the
ahead.
road a lot. It's like, well, go home. There,
Yeah.
Sacramento was a great place to live, but they weren't very supportive of us and other local bands. So we had to venture out in order to get gigs and recognition and put records out and things. So yeah.
Well, you got a lot of press with Drifters, which I think led to some major label interest, correct?
Correct.
Is that when you did the Tom Verlaine demos?
Yeah, those Tom Verlaine demos were to be signed, to try to get us signed up to a major label. And that was, what a great experience that was, meeting Albert Grossman in the hallway, filling up the Coke machine,
Oh, so you did them up at Woodstock then, or is that what?
I believe he owned that studio at the time.
Right.
And yeah, he was in, I walk up and there's some older fella filling up the machine, and I wanted a soda. He goes, oh, here, you can just have this one. It's like, oh, cool, great, thanks. He goes, yeah, no problem. I'm Al. Oh, I'm Gavin. And then on me when I went back with Verlaine, and Verlaine's like, you met Albert Grossman? I'm like, that was Albert Grossman? Holy crap. But and then
Verlaine.
Yeah, Verlaine. I mean, he was really, really great guy.
Okay, because you hear that he can be a little difficult, if you will.
Yeah, I've heard that too, but it was always like experiences like people after we did that thing with him. I mean, he's kind of an artsy guy and very. I don't want to use the word anal, but I mean, he's like, he really. With his own work. I mean, with us, it was like, what do you guys want to sound like? And and I would tell him, well, get us that kind of punch that like AC/DC has, and then with our own kind of sound mix in. He goes, well, I don't know if I could do that. I'm like, well, trying to get signed here. Do we want to sound like everybody else? He kept asking us, like, what do you want to sound like? What do you want? And I was like, you're also the producer, so you should have some vision because you came and saw us at Danceteria, and we kind of had an idea you would know how to get us a record deal or what they want, whatever. But and little side note on that session with him, he didn't like Joe Becker at all on drums because that was Joseph at the time, and we were all nervous. It's a big time. We were in the Studio A, the big huge studio there, and he wanted to bring JD up from New York, his guy, and whom I later saw play with the Waitresses. We opened for the Waitresses in San Francisco, and he goes, man, how was that Verlaine session? He called me. He wanted to bring me into the session to do the drums for you guys because Joe kept speeding up, slowing down. He got excited, and we said no, and Joe's got to be the guy. So, but yeah, JD Doherty, I believe his name is. But
right, yeah. Okay, so those demos were before Drifters then, if Joe was still in the band.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, wait a minute, I'm a little foggy on that. Was that before or after Drifters?
Probably Drifters. You have Steve. So.
Yeah. Before.
Okay.
Are those demos available?
You might talk to Russ about that. He might have something.
I think they're on. Yeah, some of them are on this thing.
Yeah, that's yeah. Some of them are on that.
Yeah.
Ronnie's our historian here because.
Yeah, I don't have that record.
Someone's got to be.
Yeah. We appreciate it. We can have 75 back.
Okay, so after Drifters, Russ leaves. What happened with what
Eventually-
happened? How did that split happen? Yeah.
Well, okay, it was the the kind of the Spinal Tap thing. The guitarist girlfriend was the manager, and that we weren't getting along. Marty Stewart with PVC Gem really contributed to the dissatisfaction of everybody within the band, because we had been trying to get signed to A&M, which actually I think one of the records was in Canada on A&M. But anyway, we went to Europe, and that label over there was signing up all of us, Long Riders, Red, all at the same time. They wanted all of us. And we had talked to a fellow over there who was the promo guy, and he was like, you guys are, I visualize you as the next Foreigner, and we were like, well, okay, whatever. But you need to get out of your record deal. And we were like, well, wait a sec, shouldn't you be going in there, helping us out? And no, you guys got to take care of that. So Connie was the manager at the time. She was good as, like, say, a personal liaison for the band, but we reached a certain point with that band where we really needed to jump to an agency, like pros, the guys that all go golfing together and, work the deals behind the scenes. And she was, pretty, not good for that. Russ, of course, they were pretty tight. He didn't want to dump her. And I said, we don't have to dump her. We can keep her as a personal manager, and then have, an agency who could go into PVC Gem and get us out of our record deal. Marty Stewart got furious that we wanted to leave him, and he had another option on us. And he held out for long enough that sort of the hype about True West died. Wow. And then, it was like a year, or almost a year's worth. He had, he waited and waited. We kept going, okay, we won't go to a major label. Let's start working on the next album. Let's, let's send us the advance. We'll work something out. We'll send you demos of songs, blah, 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 blah. And he was a prick. He just was pissed because he knew we wanted to jump ship. And, it would have been the natural progression as a musician. You want to keep going up as you can, if you can, I should say. So he held out, and, we'd been on that Rolling Stone article about the top 10 or top 15 bands to watch in 1984. And that generated a lot of excitement. And that's why, another reason the European guys were coming after us to try to sign us. And Marty Stewart, asshole. That pissed everybody off. We were all frustrated. We couldn't do another record with him because he was not giving us the go ahead to do that. But we couldn't get signed up to the major label because we couldn't get out of our contract. So we came back off the road at a certain point, and we were all pretty miserable, and and we weren't getting along at the end too. I remember that last tour through Florida was dreadful. Russ and I got into a major row down there, and we came back off the road and just kind of said, you know what, this sucks. We want to continue without Connie, and if that means continuing without you, then so be it. And Russ is like, well, that's cool, because I want to go to LA anyway and start a solo career. And we were like, fine. So we did that last True West record, Hand of Fate, with a real con man. Yeah, a real con man in San Francisco at his studios. And Russ was doing his first great record, and but then as things, and I always blame Connie more than I do Russ. They sued us, for the name, and it was like, that was pre Pink Floyd case where, remember Roger Waters sued the rest of those guys, like, you can't be Pink Floyd without me. And the judge overruled, and said, yes, they can, because, well, that if that case had been on the books when Russ and his girlfriend there sued us, that decision would have been great. But no, even more so, there was a court date we were supposed to show up for, and she gave us the wrong date so that we missed. And then they went there. It's like, well, judge rules in favor of, of them. And we find out later, we were like, you got to be kidding me. And, let's face it, none of us made any money. We didn't have the lawyer to go after them. Steve Sutra, by the way, is not that kind of a trial attorney. So we just did that final True West record, kind of swan song thing. And then Richard and I wandered off to Seattle and to start Fool Killers, and the rest of the guys went their way. And of course, rest is history. Russ is doing his thing. And that's what happened.
Wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
the record came out and then you got sued over the name.
Yeah.
Obviously, because you're using the name. Yeah. Okay.
Did a tour too, actually. We did a last American tour with the same agency that had been booking True West in the past. And I think Connie basically put Russ up to it. Like, yeah, we need to sue them for the name. You're everything about that band. And, a lot of confusion, young, we all, we've long since kissed and made up, but I think Russ told me once, you really are Irish. Irish never forget, because you didn't talk to me for 13 years. I was like, hell, I hadn't been counting.
We should also clarify that the Marty Stewart you're talking about is not the famous country artist.
Oh God, I only would live a few times. Yeah, I wish it was Marty. Marty wouldn't have screwed it.
Yeah, thank you, Ronnie, for making that distinction.
Yeah. I keep wanting to say it every time Gavin was saying the name. Yeah.
People that start sending hate mail to Marty's Facebook. What you just West Oh, what?
Okay, Steve brought it up. You and Richard stay together. You form a new band.
We stayed together. I was with my girlfriend who was from Oregon, and she had always wanted to move back home, and her parents were getting older. And so I was like, yeah, let's go. There's nothing holding us here anymore. And then Richard eventually moved back to Seattle. He'd lived there years before and had an old girlfriend that was still there. And so, we went up there and we formed Fool Killers, and did a single and did an album, and it was with an odd German label, I believe. And actually, we did two records. Oh, what? Yeah. You're the gray matter here. We started Fool Killers while we were still in Sacramento together, because we were with John Bacciagalupi and Enharmonic Studios, which was in a big Victorian in the basement, right street from where I was living. So we did that first Out of State Plates album in Sacramento, and my favorite.
And then moved. Okay.
Yeah,
Now is that around the time that Kevin gets sick?
Yeah, Kevin got sick. One of the things we were doing that album while he was sick, and that was, oh my God, that was horrible. I was at the hospital just about every day. They thought I was his brother because we kind of looked alike, and even his mother, considered me to be the other son that she had never had. And
it was a very rare ailment he had, if I remember right, correct?
Yeah, it was some kind of weird bacterial infection. And I have my own theory on how it happened. But it kept this different things went wrong with him. He turned yellow and got jaundiced. And so they were they thought it was that. And they kept testing him for AIDS, like over and over again. Oh, another test for AIDS. He didn't have AIDS. But he had a bad immune system. And there was a point in time he liked to wear Birkenstocks on the road, and he had really heavy equipment, big old Ampeg things. He dropped a speaker cabinet on his foot and really bashed up his toe, and so that the toenail came off, and it didn't heal. It took forever to heal. And so that was kind of an early indication of like, yeah, your immune system is it's not working so well. So whatever this bacterial infection that eventually messed up his heart valve, and that's how he died. But personally, I've always thought that he picked up something, and there'll be people might be pissed off at me saying this, but we went to Hamburg, and when in Hamburg, you want to go where the Beatles used to play. And who hangs out there where the Beatles used to play? Ladies, professional ladies. And a few people in the band indulged, and Kevin did. And, that's a port of call in Germany. I mean, there's freighters coming in from all parts of the world, and, when the guys hit shore leave, they want to play around and have fun. And so I personally think that, we're talking a bacterial infection. I'm thinking something very foreign, very alien, whatever. He may have contracted something, even though they're very careful, that would account for later on as we're touring and he injures himself, his immune system just kind of failed. And that's, it was, oh boy, that was horrible. Going to that hospital all the time, and he was in intensive care for quite a while, and then eventually came out, and they gave him last rites twice, and I'm like, what the hell's going on here? What's he, he's going to pull out of this, right? And I had a nurse pull me into a stairwell and tell me, like, he's not going to pull out of this. We don't know what's going on. It was kind of a teaching hospital in South Sacramento too. So yeah, I was there when he passed, and it was, it was
how old was he, Gavin? How old?
28.
Oh, yeah.
He was part of the club,
Yeah.
The 8 club. He was part of that. But a more wonderful person you've never met, and I know a lot of people say that about people they really care a lot about, but he was genuinely one of the sweetest people you'll ever meet. And I don't think anybody didn't like him. Anybody that met him always loved him, men, women, whatever, dogs.
It's like this guy over here.
Like that guy right there. And you notice it's another big somebody. Ron, Paul McCartney, Har, Paris.
All right. So you get through the Fool Killers, Gavin, and then do you give up music at that point? Do you get out of the business, or did you continue to kind of play around and we don't have recorded evidence of it?
Yeah, well, the drummer for Jim Huey in Portland has his little Paisley Park label, or Paisley label, something Paisley. Anyway, and so he released some Fool Killer stuff. The second Fool Killers record was recorded with Conrad Uno and from Young Fresh Fellows fame up there in Seattle, and that was on that German label. So yeah, after that we hooked up with Jim and did a bunch of material with him. The third Fool Killers record is done actually, with additional stuff, and it just never really kind of saw the light of day until Jim released a bunch of stuff. So yeah, there's another Fool Killers record out there. But eventually we got to the point where I wanted to go back to school again and get a science degree in wastewater management. And Richard was working for an outfit a company up in Seattle. And I moved back to help take care of my now ex's parents, and until their passing. And so yeah, we were still sending stuff back and forth, music wise, but for the most part, yeah, I kind of just sort of semi-retired, and then we've played a few shows since then. And then of course there was the True West reunions, where we, came down and play House of Blues in San Francisco and Anaheim, and did a wonderful gig up in Portland. So,
Yeah, that House of Blues gig is actually released on a DVD,
exactly.
a CD too, I think.
Yeah,
Who were you opening for? Somebody who was that show with?
that was Violent Femmes.
Okay.
They're old buddies of ours from the old days, and they called us up and they were like, hey, we want you guys to come out of retirement and play with us up at the Fillmore and play House of Blues down south. And we were like, when do we show up?
Okay.
That's all.
Okay, so that's how it happened. You got an offer you couldn't refuse, and the band got back together. Yeah.
Fillmore for me is a church. It's a rock and roll church. You go in there and see those posters on the walls of like, whoa, Cream played on this stage, and oh my God, that was amazing. Those gigs were fantastic. Well received. House of Blues was surprisingly well received. My gosh, we're at Disneyland, no less. That was weird. Yeah, things had really changed, but yeah, those were fun. And who knows? Might see us in the future.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. I thought I heard talks of some reissues. Is that?
Yeah, Russ has been working on a lot of that stuff. He has, got masters for everything, and he's been doing. But it's all, I say unfortunately, because I'm not big on the stuff online and downloading and stuff. I want that album in my hand so I can look at it, and feel it.
So
nowadays.
So probably
I'm with you, Gavin. I don't listen to music on a device. I like to hold it and look at it and put it on a stereo. Yeah.
Same with me. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't have much. I don't have a player for vinyl anymore. So I'm pretty much just a boring CD guy buying all those remastered ones.
I'm right there with you, Gavin. I don't know how people, this is a different subject, but yeah, a CD with a bunch of bonus tracks and liner notes. There's nothing better. I don't understand when people choose the vinyl option, with no bonus tracks. Like I do not understand that.
Soraya, do we still need this guy?
Hey man, see, you've got a little bit of everything. Jeff is super duper vinyl, just like Ronnie, but Ronnie adds in the CD, just like Gavin. Right. I'm a little bit of everything. So
yeah. No, same. Cool. I buy plenty of records too, but
Yeah. I got tired of hauling the records around, so pretty much now I just have a real small group of stuff, and of course everything True West or Fool Killers ever did, I've got the initial pressings for and stuff like that. So yeah.
You just don't have that X-Men single, Gavin.
Yeah, dig in the archives. I could surprise myself, but you know what? I will get in touch with Donette, maybe even today after we finish talking, and say like, hey, you got any extra X-Men? We can make some money, Donette.
Ronnie, you know something.
Ronnie will give you $50.
Oh,
Did you ask her about X-Men when you talked?
I hate to say this publicly, but
you don't have
to. But yes, yeah, no, I'll just say yes, and I will say she doesn't have a box of them, but
that's a drag.
There might be one extra. I'll just put it that way.
Oh, is that
yeah.
Gavin, I had a question.
I don't want to ruin. I just jinxed the whole thing.
No, you didn't.
Gavin, I wanted to ask you about this because I understand that you did some backing vocals on this album. Can you tell us about working on this session with Dream Syndicate on the Medicine?
Awesome. It was just Steve there. All the rest of those guys. Oh, actually, wait a minute. Is it that album? Oh, I guess it is that album. It's not that. Yeah. That's their major label thing. And Steve called me.
A&M, right? Well,
yeah.
A&M, yeah.
They paid me to do that. I mean, I got paid every day from A&M. They got a nice little check. Not much though, believe you me, but it was great. And yeah, it was like, well, when you're starving and you're working at minimum wage or whatever, it's like, what? You'll pay me to sing on your record? That's fantastic. And it was with Sandy Pearlman, you know, Blue Oyster Cult fame. And yeah, that was fun. And he also recruited Steve, the Long Rider guys to come up and sing.
Yeah, I
But
think Sid McCarthy and Stephen McCarthy and Sid Griffin, right?
Sid the Squid. Yeah. That was fun. It was down in the Bay Area, of course. And I actually roomed with Steve because A&M was putting him up in his own apartment in some place downtown close to the studio. So and Steve was like, yeah, you can come stay with me, you know. And
Did you share a bed?
no.
Okay.
I
No board down the middle.
Yeah, no board. Yeah, I had to sleep on the couch, and then I had to sleep in a closet when he was entertaining a friend. Pre Linda Pittman. So
Sure.
Did you have to put pillows on your ears to cover any?
You know, I think I've done something like that actually, because I'm in this a one-room studio apartment that A&M was putting him up in. It wasn't like he was staying at the Ritz or something, you know, where it'd be giant suite. It was pretty budget. I mean, and they were taking a chance with Dream Syndicate, you know, and it was a great record. I think really, really great. I loved doing it. Sandy Pearlman was a trip. Oh my God. Talk about eccentric, but in a good way. Not like a Phil Spector way.
Yeah.
So you remember?
I met Sandy once and he was amazing. I love Give Him Enough Rope too. I don't know why people put down the second Clash album. I think it's wonderful.
Agreed.
Oh,
like
I totally agree. I think that record's fantastic.
Yeah.
It sounds great too, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
That album and London Calling are the only two Clash records I really listen to anymore. So yeah. I love that first record, of course, but yeah, the sound he got on that was just remarkable on that second.
So you actually remember the sessions of recording the vocals for Medicine?
You know, you go in, you sing. Yeah, it was a nice experience. It was pretty much just Steve, Sandy, and myself, because Carl had finished and gone to LA, and Kendra had finished and had gone back home too. And yeah, and what was it? Dennis wasn't there. So they had pretty much done all the stuff. And then, because Steve doesn't really like people around when he's singing, at least at that point he didn't. So if he was singing something when I was there, I'd have to go wait in the hall or something, you know, in the lobby, because he didn't want people listening to it.
Understood. Yeah, I could see
So
that.
it was a wonderful experience. I mean, Steve was fantastic to work with, and as was Sandy Pearlman. I really enjoyed it.
Nice. Yeah. So do you stay in touch with Kendra these days?
I actually am. Yeah, I actually have a way to get in touch with her. She's hard to get in touch with, but I have a friend who is very good friends with her and lives right near her too. And yeah, Kendra told her at one time, yeah, it's okay if Gavin gets in touch with me. So, you know, I kind of feel honored that way. Yeah. But yeah, she was my little sister, you know, and she's doing her thing, and it's pretty cool. Raising goats and living off the grid, and, you know, in pot country over there. She's not the pot person though. So anyway, yeah, very cool.
Nice.
So get in touch with her.
Yeah. Excellent. Very cool. So Gavin, I had a question about the Paisley Underground in general. So when did that that terminology first come into your realm? When do you recall first hearing about that, or what you thought about that? Or
well, I've always told journalists that, like, no, we're not part of the Paisley Underground. We're just friends with those guys, but they would lump that too. And I think it used to annoy certain people that were in, you know, truly part of that whole scene. And I've never, you know, I've never like said that we were part of that. You know, we're separate from that, but we're good friends with all those people.
Yeah.
As far as when I first heard about that, I don't know. When we first started playing together, like, you know, we would play shows with Rain Parade and And 3 o'clock was also on that REM tour at a certain point too. So yeah, we would hear about it with them when, yeah, eventually. And we read the press too. It's like, oh, they call themselves the Paisley Underground. Yeah.
And
Cool.
you had the Steve Wynn connection too, so you got tied in because of that. Yeah.
And Kendra, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that press did that too. It's sort of like, oh, well, you know, Steve Wynn produced their blah, blah, blah. So yeah, there must be part of it too. We weren't.
Yeah. Well, plus the English press, you know, they wanted more. You want more Paisley Underground bands. You know what I mean? So you start reaching out to like a True West or, you know, whoever.
Bonnie's spot on with that. Yeah, true.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, one more thing about Bring Out Your Dead records. We recently had 28th Day on here. Was that the only other release on that label? I think they said it was, but I just wanted to ask you.
I think it is. Yeah, because after a while, it's an awful lot of work, and you know, and Russ was doing that with his girlfriend, and yeah, eventually, it was time not do anything more on that. I mean, Russ is an artist. You know, he's not a business person per se, and he wanted to go on and do other stuff. You know, but yeah,
makes sense.
I believe they were the only ones on there. Yeah.
Not bad to have those as the only releases. If you're gonna only have a couple releases, True West and 28th Day, not a bad discography.
Sure.
Yeah.
Solid catalog.
Yeah.
Yes. Catalog. Small, but
Very cool. Soraya, did you have any other questions that you want to ask before?
I just had a little question, and that was, since your CD collection it focuses on quality, I want to know who you're listening to these days.
a little bit of everything. I mean, I think I'd lean more towards sort of classic rock. You know, I'm not really listening to alternative stuff, some of the old stuff. I love, you know, Ronnie knows for a fact I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan, and Saxon, and that sort of that new wave of British heavy metal, you know, at a certain point. So it's, you know, not the new metal at all. So yeah, that's what I'm listening to. Yeah, kind of boring, and classic rock, you know, and what I did before and what my friends did before, I still listen to that too.
Nice.
So,
I like it.
That was the era, right? That was the era.
It was a fun era.
80s. Yeah.
It was pretty cool. And you know, True West always had the problem in the 80s. We weren't new wave, and we were more sort of rock, you know, sort of like, yeah, we lean more towards Tom Petty, Rolling Stones, you know. But when we play live, we're, you know, yeah, we could be kind of hard some nights. So, but yeah, we wave. So.
Right. You probably got booked on a new wave night every now and then.
Oh God, yeah, yes, yeah. Especially in Sacramento, where we're freaking clueless. You know, it was like the hair metal scene was coming in. We weren't hair metal, and they had bands like in Sacramento, like Tesla, and oh God, some dreadful ones that would they owned the circuit. They owned the club circuit, and so. You know, we even got booked into a punk club that was wonderful punk club in Sacramento at one point, but you know, really, I believe that was with Dream Syndicate. It might have been with Dream Syndicate actually. Club Minimal, and of course the normal people that were out that club they had, you know, were like, what are these guys? You know, they don't sound like Suicidal Tendencies.
No.
So yeah.
See, it's good for people who listen to this podcast, probably because Sacramento has these classic bands, you know, to us, like Thin White Rope and Game Theory and and we all think like, oh, these bands like ruled the scene. They were ruling Sacramento and Davis, but
no,
it wasn't really that way. Yeah.
No, I mean, it was a wonderful little club scene, and there were weird little clubs you could play and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, Thin White Rope were still sort of Davis bound. As was Game Theory. They were another Davis band, and it was tough to kind of break into the Sacramento scene at that time because those other classic rock bands that were waiting for the big record deal to come along. They owned the clubs. So we could play a wave night here and there at little underground kind of clubs, but we all had to venture out. You know, we look at Thin White Rope. They toured like crazy too, all over the world. And Game Theory is, and then Scott, I guess, eventually moved to the Bay Area. That was tough too, to break into the Bay Area. Was a real snooty market at that time. You know, we were the country hicks coming from Sacramento, and there were a lot of cool clubs to play in San Francisco, but you got really shitty nights, you know, because all the groovy local San Francisco bands got all the Friday, Saturday night gigs. Every now and then you might get lucky, but then of course there was the wonderful pay to play crap that ruled for a number of years. Oh my word. You probably experienced that down in LA, didn't you, Ronnie, where you have to buy?
It was around that. I moved here in '89, so the metal scene was still going on. But you know what? People still pay to play now at those clubs.
Really?
We did some shows during our final year in our band with the Dickies at the Whiskey, and like there were like 7 bands on the bill. And I remember the first one went on at like 7. I remember walking in and like nobody's in the club, and it just occurred to me, and I got it confirmed later. I'm like, these bands are paying to be on the bill. Like every band before us, you know, we were right before the Dickies, paid to play to be on that bill, you know.
Yeah, we went through that. We went through that in the Bay Area. It was such bullshit. I mean, because the club owners were too lazy to advertise, so it's like, oh well, we got to make some money, and of course we didn't have a big following in the Bay Area. Our following was in, you know, Lawrence, Kansas, and even we did well in New York City and Atlanta, Georgia, and a lot of places, and of course overseas. But in Vancouver, BC, oh my word, that was a wonderful place to play. But we went through.
Well, Gavin, we appreciate you taking time to walk through some of the stuff with us.
It's nice. Yeah.
True West always comes up when we talk about the Paisley Underground, so we
guilt by association.
Exactly. But we wanted to express our appreciation for you coming on and just talking with us. We really enjoyed it.
I'm flattered.
I did. I don't know about Ronnie and Soraya, but
well, goes with that.
He paid us to do this. The opposite pay to play. Yeah.
There you go.
Pay to get
you
in.
Want me to talk to Gavin? You're gonna have to pay me.
Yeah, Jeffrey will probably send a bill in the mail for this too. So. Hey.
Gavin, I'll see you in Reno sometime soon. You know, my brother lives there, so I will.
Really? I think I forgot. Oh,
yeah.
Well, you've always.
In fact, I wanted to remind you because I know Marion and my sister-in-law hit it off at our parties. So you guys need to hook up in Reno. Yeah. So.
Yeah, most definitely. God, I miss those Ronnie Julie parties big time.
I know. It was sad to not have it this year, but it will happen. Yeah.
Good. Well, yeah. Let me know when you're coming up to Reno, because we're just.
I know how to find you. I know how to find you, Gavin.
You do know how to. Well, thanks to you all for being on this. This is pretty cool.
Thank you, Gavin. We appreciate it. We're thankful that we were your first Zoom, right?
True. My first Zoom. So
you did good, Gavin. You did good on the Zoom.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I figured out that one button to bring me.
You figured it out way quicker than some other guests that we might have had.
Yeah, this is true.
Well, nice using my phone. Because I use that for everything. It's an iPhone, and my computer is an antique. So I'm glad I could download the app and do this that way. So
very good.
Cool.
Right. We're just gonna have to have you on again. Show us your skills one more time. Don't worry, we'll find a topic.
Cool. We'll talk.
More music by Gavin to talk about. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So,
all right.
The next episode will be the Iron Maiden episode. So
I'd like to, be listening to that.
That would be fun. Yeah.
All right, you
Okay.
guys.
Done.
Thank you so much.
That's the
Okay.
last band I saw before the COVID hit.
Wow.
I saw
Yep.
the last show that I saw before everything shut down in
Wow.
Sacramento. Was wonderful
Wow.
too.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was
Anyway,
a Kiss and David Lee Roth for me at Oakland or Oracle Arena, Gavin.
it figures it would be Kiss.
Isn't it weird? It's almost poetic. I hope nothing happens to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's.
I think of you every time I'm in a thrift store and I see some Kiss thing, and I'm like, oh, I should get that for Ronnie. But wait a minute, he probably already has it.
Ronnie, you have your people looking for you. I love that.
People do send me Kiss. This is a different subject, but yeah, people do send me Kiss things. So I really appreciate all the Kiss love.
But for getting anything more Kiss. So
Well, there was recently a Christmas present addressed to me and Julie, and it was a Kiss like magazine with a Kiss Christmas card. I'm like, Julie, our good friends in England sent us a Christmas present. It's just what you wanted. She's always like, how come no one ever sends me anything?
well, it's been great. You
All
Yeah.
right.
let you all go too. So
All
Yes.
right. We'll talk to you later then.
Cheers.
talk
All
to you
right.
later.
Okay.
Be
Thanks,
nice,
Jeff.
Jeff and Soraya.
We will.
Always.
Okay.
Always.
All right.
Good meeting
Bye,
you,
y'all.
Soraya.
Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So what did you think about that conversation that we had with Gavin yesterday?
That was a great conversation.
It was.
And thanks a lot to Ronnie Barnett for coming on this call and getting to talk with Gavin Blair. I learned a lot.
I did too. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I think I hadn't realized until he said we were road dogs is how much touring, how much True West spent time on the road.
It's insane. Yeah. Even a trip to Europe, right?
I mean, yeah, Europe, the States, and then never looked at. I will never look at a red roof in a different way now. Now I won't see it the same way as I have before, as it gave them rest.
Yeah.
But no, it was a great talk. And if any of our listeners have a recording of X-Men doing Pirate Love with Gavin at vocals, please, I want to hear it.
Yeah.
I really want to hear that.
Yeah. Me too. Me too.
And I had no idea how hard to get that X-Men album is.
Yeah, I have it on my wish list, but like Ronnie mentioned in the conversation, trying to get a copy is difficult. And if you do find it, at least for us Americans, it's difficult because they're all located overseas for us. So that just increases the price, right? I'm getting it. And one thing that I did learn today, which was interesting, is I finally know the answer to why the band took that wood plank on them on the tour. And then it was that dividing line in the bed, right?
There you go. There you go. It was always there. Always there. But I think a number of our listeners who maybe aren't too familiar with True West before got a real view of the evolution of the band, but also got some pieces of the band history that I think maybe not a lot of people knew.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a story that takes a lot of twists and turns, and I'm really thankful to Gavin for sharing that with us, but also talking about his own musical interests and drummer, singer, Iron Maiden lover. I mean, he's a jack of all trades. I like that about him, and it was just a blast to sit and talk with him and hear some of the stories.
It really was. I learned tons. And I think we had a prep call with Ronnie the night before, and he was prepared because I know he had lots of questions. So it was interesting to learn about. I thought of Gavin as a drummer first and then going to singer, but he told us that he was actually a singer first as a choir boy.
Right.
Yeah, so that was new information.
And I really want to get this the compilation, the TV Western.
Which one was that?
That was the one that Ronnie shared with us. It's a True West album. It's a
Oh,
compilation
yes.
of called TV Western, and that's the one I believe he said has the Tom Verlaine demos.
Yes. Yeah. When I was asking if
Yeah.
those were available, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
So
a great story too about the Tom Verlaine sessions.
I mean, this was a really good episode, and there are just so many stories. And I bet you, Jeff, if we have Gavin on again, we'll get even more.
Yeah.
Like the 1 hour just seemed short.
Yeah, absolutely. I was really interested to hear Gavin's take on the Paisley Underground. As we know, it's something that came up more so with publications, right? The media. But it's always interesting for me to hear the different musicians or people that were a part of it or in that vicinity or adjacent to the Paisley Underground, how they view the Paisley Underground. And it was interesting to hear his take. And we were never a part of it. It's like we got lumped into
it. Used to annoy people to be lumped in. But one of the things that I found, it's an interesting reflection back now after having spoken with Gavin, is, I can see how some maybe overseas publications want to kind of put these bands that were all playing around at the same time and kind of circulating in the same universe to lump them all together. But look how connected they were. Okay, because you see, Gavin did some work on Medicine Show, and but he had a history with Steve and Suspects, and but what I found interesting was that 2 different points in the early 80s, 2 different bands at 2 different parts of California do a cover of Lucifer Sam.
Yeah.
And as he said, we didn't have internet back then, so we didn't kind of know what the other was doing until we heard, the version. So, and you absolutely, those of you who are listening who've never heard it, you absolutely need to hear this version of Lucifer Sam by True West.
Yeah,
because it is
definitely.
really good.
And as we heard, Gavin doesn't sing it with a British accent.
Oh. He leaves that to the one and only Michael Quartio. But yeah, it's just interesting how there were lots of connections that keep these bands kind of interconnected indirectly and in some ways directly. I think that's what you and I constantly remark about, is there are a lot of things that keep that link these bands together in a time and a place. So for us, it's just interesting.
Yeah,
It's just really neat to hear, the camaraderie and, the appreciation each one has for others.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But I can't wait to have Gavin back on to hear more stories, or, and then, who knows? Who knows? They reunited in 2006. Who knows? One of the things that Gavin did mention is that there may be some reissues.
Yes. Yeah.
Reissues.
And Russ is working on those, right?
That may be forthcoming at some point in the future.
Yes.
But so there are reissues to look forward to, and you never hold out hope that the band might get together one more time.
I mean, the thought would
fun.
be, if they put out reissues, that hopefully they would be able to promote it. But who knows in these days and times, like even if, but one could only hope. We don't know anything, but one could only hope. Right?
Fingers crossed.
Yeah,
Fingers
exactly.
crossed.
Yep, exactly.
But Jeff, that was a lot of fun, and fun times ahead. And for all you Iron Maiden fans, What just happened? The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame said they're going to be an inductee, or they're at least a nominee.
Yeah.
So Iron Maiden never dies.
No.
Mi gente a groovear.
Groove on, Paisley people. Bye bye, kitty.